Hey, Barbara.
Morning. It's recording and I don't know why.
We always set our meetings to record,
Oh, okay. I figured
Yeah.
I thought, did
but
I
now
do
they tell you, they're like, it is recording, and then you have to click to acknowledge it. And it's kind of weird.
that? How's your weather? Is it getting cold?
No, it's not cold. We're in the 60s or so.
Oh, that's cool. The leaves are
Yeah.
probably turning and gorgeous.
They're starting to, but they say it's not supposed to be a good year for some reason. It's been really wet here this year, and I think it's gonna delay the turning of the leaves or keeping them green longer.
The whole universe is weird. So, okay.
That it is.
We'll be leaf peeping in December instead of planning our winter holiday parties.
We do it in January. Like that's when the leaves start falling here. It's so weird. It's
Oh,
just-
really?
The desert
Wow.
is such a funny place. Yeah. Yeah. It's just so funny.
So
What
the
leaves
leaves. Oh, yeah, that's good.
What's that? Oh, just
What
the tree
leaves?
leaves. A lot of the tree leaves, they fall in January, December,
Yeah.
January. It's the weirdest thing.
And then
I
do
don't
they
know
pop
why.
back up a couple months later? Like that's
Yeah.
a really short turnaround.
Yeah, they pop right back up.
Oh, how funny. I mean, there's something to be said for that. I like the leaves as opposed to the barely branches.
I know. I hate that look.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was just in Atlanta. I go, oh yeah, just wait till a few more months when all the leaves are gone, right? It's not that pretty.
Right.
Hey, how are you? MF.
I'm just waking up from like 15 hours night because I feel like not good today, but I'm here.
Oh no, that's
Uh-oh.
sorry.
It's okay.
Hopefully you're okay though, right? You've got kids and everything.
Oh yeah, no, it's just little bug. It happened. Like flu still exists.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It does. That's my big worry this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Last year was non-existent because everyone was wearing masks and not interacting with each other. And now,
Right.
Yeah. But my daughter had it, so yesterday morning I drove her to school, and then school called me back 2 hours later saying she's not feeling well. And for a 9-year-old to sleep all day, I can tell you she wasn't feeling well. And I started feeling bad yesterday afternoon, so it's her fault. It's wholly your fault.
Mhm.
I'm getting my flu shot this weekend.
I know. I don't normally get one. I think I better. I really think I better because I thought I had COVID, but I didn't go get tested because I was that sick for 5 days. And I
Ooh.
went to get the antibody test, thinking, like a week later, I went to the doctor. I said, just do the antibodies. She goes, you don't have them. I'm like,
Oh.
wow, I must have had the flu or something, but whatever it was not fun for 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't feel like much.
But I'm here. That's the most important part.
It
I'm
is. I'm
fighting
glad.
it, and I'm here. That's dedication. Take notes, guys.
We
Of
got
all
this,
people,
girl.
you are not the person I worry about, Marie France.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We know you're dedicated.
You're the reason I'm here, girl. Come on.
Oh god.
Hello. I support you.
I'm just looking forward. I didn't took a vacation for the last year and a half. I'm going on vacation not next week, the week afterwards. And I'm just like, I
To
need to
where?
be better to get on vacation. I'm going to Cancun for a week with my best
Wow.
friend.
Nice.
Thank goodness.
Nice.
With your best
Yes.
friend. So no family, no kids, no. Wow, that's a
Oh, I love it.
vacation.
No
No
husband, no
no
kids,
husband.
no
Wow.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she turned 40, so that's her gift.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Cool. All righty. Who else are we expecting, Elizabeth?
Well, let's see. Adriana emailed to say she couldn't make it. Brandon, Diana, Joseph, Andy Keaton, Esteban, Mark Cleveland. So we'll see it's a smaller crowd than anticipated, but we'll see if anybody jumps on, as we get going. So
That doesn't mean there's less interest in the topic.
exactly.
Okay, excellent. So we can go ahead and probably
Okay.
There's Diana.
get started. All right. You want me to kick things off? Or?
Sure, go ahead.
Excellent. All righty. Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining and participating in this subgroup of for the Technology and Innovation Council Development group to really focus on today, kind of reviewing a draft charter that would be presented back to the full group of interested individuals at a future meeting. And so just to bring everyone up to the same page, we had a kickoff call a few weeks ago that was really well attended. It was fabulous. I think we had 25 plus folks that were joining in that conversation, kick off this idea. And there were probably another 15 or so that had hoped to have joined that call, but weren't able to. So there is a lot of interest there, and we know there's a growing focus area within the industry. So we're thrilled to see it moving forward. With that kickoff call, we spent time going through the role of councils and what they do within the overall organization and the responsibilities that they have and requirements that there are for establishing a council that include having a charter that gets adopted by the board, which essentially establishes the group, having a leadership structure in place, and then various tasks and responsibilities they have throughout the year to engage and provide a platform for members to be involved in the topic. And with the kickoff call, we spent a good amount of time allowing for a open sharing and response to some key questions that we had posted on the retro board. And Elizabeth just posted that in the chat there if anyone wants to go back and visit it and refresh their memory about what was on that retro board. It essentially was looking at I thought I had mine open here, but I must have closed it down. So I'm going to open up your link and go to there. We were asking questions around the benefits of forming a council, the challenges that the council might face as it brings people together that are I think on this group probably sway more heavy towards the vendor side versus the general kind of non-vendor part of the organization. Policy issues that would be of shared interest amongst the group, and then just other things that we should be aware of or thinking about as we look to pull this council together. And it was great. Those retro boards never cease to amaze me on their ability to really allow people to share their thoughts and provide input constructively in a safe environment where no one has to put their name to what they're saying and can speak honestly with everyone else. And so what we did with that information was spend some time kind of culling it and looking for shared thoughts and ideas and what was being presented to develop a draft charter for all of us today to review, talk through, and make edits and suggestions that we will then take back to the group at its next meeting to gather additional feedback or adopt, and then be able to present to the ACT Board of Directors. Did everyone receive a copy of that charter?
I'm going to put it on the screen too, so that we can all look at it.
Yep.
All righty. Curious, so today we really just want to, this is kind of Elizabeth and I's thinking on what, oh, sorry, that's my landline.
You still have that?
It's mainly for my wife's business. She's got a daycare, a childcare in the house, though.
Oh, no, you need it then, yeah.
Yep. Wanted to get, this is our thoughts on it and what we were hearing and reading in the thoughts that were shared on the retro board, trying to break it down to a few major focus areas. But this council is to be your council, and want to make sure that what we were hearing and reading is interpreted in the way that you were saying it or understood it yourselves. So would love to, just kind of now take a moment to, hopefully if you've had a chance to read it or been scanning through it while I've been mumbling away here, gather your thoughts and on what's been put together. Is there things we're missing? Anything misinterpreted? Any major key points that need to be clarified or fleshed out a bit more? Anything. So I'm gonna stop there. Open it up.
I think that on the first point for creating resource, I think some of the resource is, before we even get into that, is just to explain to other ACT entities what are the technology and innovation available in the market. Like just to have a kind of a map of all the different technology. And I just want to come back on one thing you said, David, about the fact that there's a lot of technology provider on that call and not so many of the clients that would be using it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the visions that I had, and again, it's just my personal vision, but I don't like, what I would be nervous to do with the innovation console, technology console, would be to have just us talking to ourselves and seeing how we can sell our technology. I think that it's more about how we connect with the different console that are already up and running, to make sure that we understand what they need and kind of highlight some of the technology without being a specific technology, but just a specific benefit that it could get out of the technology by communicating with those other console, and really have a kind of a synergy approach, and not just like us talking to ourselves within ourselves of how to sell it. I don't know if it makes any sense.
It makes total sense. We can do that at trade shows. I mean, that's really what trade shows have become, is like vendors talking to themselves. It's gotten kind of old. Thank God I'm going to the Southwest Parking Association and they don't even have a trade show. I'm like, oh, thank God. But I think, hearing what their problems are, or what they still, now that the landscape has changed, and it's more of a hybrid work environment, we deal with some of the largest tech companies, right, that are in our organization. So of course we want to hear from them. And we want to understand, what are they hearing and what are they, having still, issues with, or would like to have kind of stuff. Those are the things that bring ideas to tech companies to maybe solve a problem, right? So, and then as a team, I think, going along with what MF is saying, I think we can bring all of our big brains together and possibly showcase something out somewhere, right? With many technologies, not just a technology. Today, I think it's more about, partnerships, of course. I don't think everyone does everything well, but, when you have something that is really good, like Park Office, I admire those guys out of Ireland. They were at our conference, I sat down with their CEO and, we've been meeting with them. And I think, they do what they do. They're the best at it, right? So I think it's things like that, we want to know, is that a problem that they're having? And now, I'm sure not everyone's having it. I know universities are, but not all of them with parking. I know some of the companies are, but not all of them. So it's just things like that that we want, that I think is things that our technology committee can actually, stew on and put it together. I think, there's a lot of knowledge in the room or on the call or whatever we call it.
Can I add another layer to that I think captures what both of you were just saying? Reading through the document, I think the only thing, David, that's missing for me is technology really should be directly connected to solving a particular problem. And I think the goal we probably should be starting with is how are we surfacing, particularly the stakeholders in ACT that need the technology solutions, how are we surfacing what they really view as the problem first? And then helping them understand. And look, I'm on the vendor side of it, right? So I'm immersed constantly in talking about myself and our solutions. But that doesn't mean we're listening really to what someone who needs a technology solution sees the problem as, and then matching what the technology can do to even solving that problem in the first place. And I kind of feel like if we kind of flipped the lens a little bit and began to look at it more from like, hey, we need the other councils to better identify what they really believe the problems are, we would probably be better at helping them understand what we were all just talking about, which is, well, here's what technologies are aimed at solving that solution, but here are also the technologies when you latch them together in partnerships to solve either the whole problem or more aspects of the problem, because they're different, maybe somewhat similar, but aimed at different aspects of the problem, and you will get a solution that is more directly serviceable for your own problem. I don't want to say bespoke, because I think as vendors, we all get really scared about that. Some of us do anyway. I do. But like, we would begin to allow people to better understand where the bridge is from what they are actually seeing on the ground as a problem they want to solve, to why certain technologies that they have visibility on through ACT and hopefully the Technology Council to say, this is where I need to go talk because they clearly understand the problem, and this group of people can help me understand which technologies I need to consider to help solve that problem.
And then I have a comment too. I was also thinking from the vendor side, what about having a place where we can deposit best practices or things that we've seen that maybe didn't work and how we fixed it, especially in autonomous vehicles. There are some, treacherous paths that we wouldn't want to take and different things like that in terms of the ODD for those types of things. But anyway, maybe what are the best practices and what are the problems and solutions that occur upon a deployment of an autonomous vehicle, including the V2X and the different technology, and then even the ride share apps and all of those other things that we're all a part of in the industry. So it'd be nice to have like a database or a depository of relevant information for all of us as people in the industry to share, in addition to what Tony said.
Yeah, and I think standards, not that there's a lot to find within the TDM world today. GTFS RT is definitely a standard that's out there, GTFS, which we don't have to get into what it is or anything, and I'm sure most of you know, but regardless, like there's standards that are being developed right now, that, it's important that they understand that you want technology that's building to standards, right? And then you don't have to worry about getting locked into something that you can't get out of, which I don't see happening as much in the TDM world as I see in the public transit side. That's really sad. But that's another area, I think, along with best practices, that if we can create some type of a repository of, just helpful information. And I forget where I saw, but I saw a really good dictionary, with like, and I'm sure we can locate one with just terminology and explanations of some of these terms that I think when you're in technology, you throw them out, right? But it doesn't mean that everybody understands what they are. And
Yeah.
I think having that available to the whole TDM world is kind of important to.
And a frequently asked questions of FAQs, which, we have one on our website, but if we all put all of ours together, in different categories, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, helpful information, to help people, surface all this out and understand it. They're running transportation and they're running programs to get people, to work. They're not technology experts. So I think the education piece of it is, something that can be done easily.
Yeah, I love that piece too. I'm into the technology side. I'm sorry, the education side.
Yeah, I think,
maybe
Diane,
just-
are you on this call? I know she was, and, I've talked,
Uh-huh. Right. Yes, I am. I just had to take a quick call.
oh,
Sorry.
no, because I know when we've had conversations, I kind of speak a language that I feel like sometimes I need to back up, right? And you'll stop me, you'll ask me the question, right? And you're like, wait a minute, what is that, So that's where I kind of gather this information is our conversation that you and I have had before. And,
So I missed part of that. I'm sorry. I was on the phone with one of my council members. So
No,
what was-
no, it's just
what was the conversation in the question?
just understanding the terminology in technology and some of the basics of, educating people like yourselves to know, when somebody's speaking technology to you, that you're hearing the right terms, if you will. So I've kind of told her, here's the things you want to make sure you look for in a vendor, right? Make sure they
Right.
have GTFS and GTFS RT out of the box and certain little things that I think can really help educate the community, and then really hearing their problems. That's where I would just love to hear the real issues that are occurring
I think I
today.
just-
So,
wanted to add, I think on the theme of the sort of, how, the surfacing problems and things like that. So the innovation aspect of this council. So, innovation is a process. It's kind of an activity and a teachable skill. I think maybe there's a piece there we can focus around, not just, providing definitions and sort of standards around technology, but also some of the processes and activities that can be done by these organizations to enable innovation. There's activities that can be done to effectively surface problems and to effectively business case around that, and to define what is the actual technology requirement. So I think there's something as the sort of technologists that we can help the users of the technology in being better at understanding their own needs, setting up for success around technology. Like it's kind of a process piece around this, around how to start on an innovation process within your organization. Because to go from, we've had this sort of technology for years and now we're going to modernize, that's quite a lot of effort and quite a lot of new knowledge that's needed. So I think there could be something there that we could help with as well.
And I just want to add one thing as well. I like that idea, Jacob, first of all. And sorry, I was calling in via the phone, so I wasn't seeing who was talking at the very beginning of the meeting, but I'd be interested to hear a little bit from some of the people who aren't technology providers, because I hear a lot of kind of like an us and them kind of conversation of what do they want, and we have to kind of ask ourselves, who is this for? Is this a council for vendors that we then go out and talk to other people, or is it a council for all ACT members, in which case some are vendors, some are not, and we actually are working kind of collaboratively. I'd like to hear maybe from I see some people on the call here who are not from vendors. I am, so I'm not going to speak for what you think, and see what would be valuable from your perspective in this organization or in this council, and how we can actually make it not just the vendors talking to each other kind of thing.
And before I let anyone answer that, Andy, I love what you're saying there. One of the things that I had in mind when we started having those conversations was really to open it to everyone and to connect with the other council that are already out there. So that for me is something that I have really close to my heart. I feel like all the council right now are not talking to each other, and I just don't want the Council for Innovation and Technology to be the same. That's their decision. They have some really specific challenges that they are working on those console, but because we are innovation and technology, I think our innovation part, the first one is the collaboration part and all together doing that. So I will let everyone answer the question that you asked, because it's a very good question, but I just want to expand that to the fact that I would like to see the Technology and Innovation Council to have a representation in all the other council and hear what they're saying, bring it back, brainstorm, but having like a conversation with different group and council within ACT to have a real synergy between all of that.
Yeah, and I can kind of speak from the client side of things, I guess, if you will, and just talk about how we've created some structure around this in Atlanta, where that's sort of been my position for the past couple of years, is really be that buffer between private sector vendors, you guys as the technology providers, and our TDM program, the MPO and our transit providers as well. But I will tell you that things do not necessarily get lost in translation, but when you only have a couple of people who may be speaking in between you guys as the private sector, all the way to MPOs and to transit providers, local governments, it can be difficult to get buy-in from every one of those entities. And maybe this is an Atlanta problem because we have so much government. We love starting new cities, starting new agencies, starting all the red tape. So maybe this is an Atlanta problem. But to reach our TDM goals and what we're ultimately trying to do with reduced SOVs, and do that through technology, whether it be AVs, microtransit, micromobility, what have you, all of the technologies that come to market in Atlanta to try to accomplish that then take that problem and also communicate what we're trying to do to the city of Atlanta and to all of our suburban local governments, and then to our transit operators as well. It's not so black and white, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Of we have someone who is in this council, who's a part of this group, who can then take it and go back to local governments within their community and convince everyone to get on board with the goals that they have in place as a TDM program and how technology can help solve that. You do need champions. I think that's important. I think it's important to have a voice at every level of government to help spearhead emerging technologies and have someone who understands a little of both worlds. But I don't think it's as black and white of, you have someone, Mark gets someone from Nashville's MPO to join in this committee. I don't think you're not necessarily going to see the plug of the problems directly into technology and technology solve that just because they're a part of this group, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But it's good to have them a part of this group. With the radio silence there, by all means, get more people from government involved with this group, because you do need champions in that. I also want to set the expectation of just the problems that I've run into in Atlanta and I've talked to several of you about doing pilots in Atlanta for it to have no avail, because I can champion it, but I can only take it so far as well.
Thank you, Joseph.
This is Mark Cleveland. I think I have a question. I'm not sure if it's a question or an observation. But in some of my experience with the let's say that we're the technology vendors and also members of ACT are buyers. And there's been some feedback over the years about sort of vendor dominated topics, or, you know, are we really for us, or are we trying to hybrid so we can get the financial support from vendors and the contribution and the dynamic, you know, environment we want to see with such wide collaboration? Is the I guess I'm going to ask a potentially toxic question, but is this initiative in any way pushing an example of the TDM universe that's already made their technology decisions and already has their ideas put in one place? You know, is this a forum where we're going to wind up just talking amongst ourselves, or is this we're being pushed into or out of these other areas where that contribution feels natural? Or I don't know. It just I think this is a good idea. I'm not at all against it by any stretch, but I'm wondering if the undercurrent is push the vendors over into an area where we're all going to be sort of not very well talking to each other because we've got competitive dynamics, et cetera. How do you actually deliver value in this environment we're talking about? So I'm pretty aware of the hyper competitive nature of most of the parties involved. And so I wonder how you get successful.
The way I saw it is not so much talking about our solution specifically, but understanding how the market answers to the technology and innovation and mitigate the different challenges that we're experiencing all around. So it's not about saying like, I am so great, I'm so good, my solution solves everything, and this is what we do. If anyone is here for that, I don't think it's the right council for that.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah, I feel like it's not like, I understand the competitive approach of different technology that could compete with each other, but at the end of the day, it's not a sales pitch. It's not, and this is really close to my heart. The Technology and Innovation Council should not be a sales pitch place. It's really about how we understand and we listen to the market and collaborate all together. Barbara said it before, but it's not about and I've been saying it for the last couple of years now, that it's a cocktail of solution that will solve problem. It's not a one single solution that will solve it all. And like Barbara was saying before, she might have 65% of the solution with our technology. How do we put all that together to get 100% solution for a client? And I think that this is really the kind of collaboration that I had in mind when I started talking about the council. But again, like, I speak a lot about that because that's for me, if it becomes a sales pitch, I'm out. And I just want to make sure that this is crystal clear, that even if you have your technology, we're not going to ask for all the different element or secret behind your technology to put it somewhere else, but it's about how we can collaborate all together. But again, it's just my vision. I speak a lot, but I was told by some of you on that call to speak more and really put my vision out there. But I just, that for me is really important, that it doesn't become a place where somebody like Joseph or Josh will not want to be involved because they'll feel like they'll be bombarded by sales pitch. Mark, I don't want that. I want to create champions. Like
I think, Mark, you raised like an awesome, it's almost like something we should have up in lights all the time to test ourselves. I think for me, this council, if what we're doing is always towards a purpose of improving the way in which technology is used and the impact that it has on the TDM space, because I think we all could agree, vendors, everyone else, that there's so much more that could be done in the way in which the TDM space embraces technology and uses it to have impact, then I think we're good, right? I think you're spot on, Mark. If it turns into us kind of just talking to each other about all our different technologies. I think if we're all sort of united behind a goal that we're helping the space to improve the way in which it embraces innovation, uses technology to create impact, and we all pretty much share a common goal around that, what that impact needs to be, then we're probably doing something of value.
Mhm. Which is a good point to really, I want this discussion has been great, and I think it's touched on a lot of important areas, and trying to bring that back to, that overall charter, as we look through, and starting with the first two sentences of what is the purpose of this group, and creating this place for members to, come together, share, expand awareness, discuss those future trends, advanced policies, and it all comes down to, how does the role of technology and innovation support, that broader success of TDM, and making that connection there. Is that shared purpose that we all have in coming together through a council? Because I agree with, Mark's point that, one, this is not a group where, we're essentially, segregating the the technology vendors over to one area. Mark, are you blending something? No.
Air conditioner, sorry.
Like pulling out a smoothie. Where we're planning to segregate the vendors off to a side so that they don't interfere. I think the goal of this is to provide that clear platform and venue for the entire membership to gather on these issues. You all have unique expertise in this because you're in the field every day. But all of our members in some way interact with technology and the services that are being provided. And, how do we create that, strengthen that relationship between the two so that you're able to listen and hear what they as the market are trying to address, and you can share with them what you see as the trends and innovations that are taking place that may address some of their challenges. And it's, could become almost a living, ongoing focus group in some ways to, hear and react to what's happening in the industry. And in addition, looking at, through a council, how do we raise all ships together by creating an environment that is more supportive of advancing and utilizing technology within the field to create stronger communities and create, transportation options there. And that should be all of you benefiting at the same time, or potentially benefiting, having an equal opportunity to benefit at the same time.
Hey, David, this is Lisa Keel. Do we have a ACT like survey software that you use that you can touch on Tony's point earlier about what does the ACT Council as a whole need in terms of transportation?
Oh yeah, we definitely have, we utilize SurveyMonkey and the council, and it's, can always, pull together and do a survey to gather feedback from members.
Can we write one as a group and then have you and Elizabeth maybe push it out to the whole group?
Yeah, one thing that we're always cautious is to make sure that, it's that any survey tool that's, being put together, we know what the purpose of it would be and how the information is going to be used. We do a lot of surveys throughout the year, so we try and make sure that we're not over surveying folks. So we got to make sure it's truly that is the most important next step in the process, is that data. You know, as long as that's the case, you know, we can always fit it in. You know,
You can always ask on Connect.
you can always ask on Connect as well. You know, other things could be, as this group goes and gets formed and comes together, and you know, one of the interesting pieces I was hearing, you know, is that interaction between other councils and the membership at large on understanding what their needs are, and you know, perhaps even hosting a regular series of conversations that take place on very specific topics that are, you know, what are the technology needs facing major urban areas, or how is technology and, you know, needs of rural environments or hospital, you know, something, you know, and like looking at those, you know, almost hosting of focus group sessions that are there to, you know, hear what folks are saying, that then leads into a, oh, and we've got these solutions, and this is the broad environment that is out there that could help, and perhaps identifying opportunities for engagement that come out of it.
Hey, David,
Mhm.
following up on Lisa's question, I got a couple questions on that. How does ACT, either as a whole for its membership or through the individual councils, surface what the membership thinks are, let's just say, the top 5 problems to solve at any period of time? Like, how do we do that right now? And where I'm going in relationship to, I'll surface why I have deep interest in this technology council. I take the technology aspect, or the lens at which I'm looking through this, and I put it to the side. All the things that we have in this first paragraph for purpose, including identifying trends, advancing policies, you know, things like that, where the technology even fits in.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that what we take an effort in is becoming the thought leaders and experts in understanding the problems, because quite frankly, whether we are talking about our existing solutions or things that don't exist right now, if we don't have a deep grasp of what the membership is telling us are the prioritization of problems that they feel are really important to solve with respect to TDM or commute trip reduction or urbanization and density in relation to transit access, any of that stuff, the solutions really don't mean anything. You know, we're all just throwing a widget out there and we're asking people to accept it as a solution to the problem without really understanding what does the membership think technology should be solving for in the first place.
Mhm.
If we can surface that and use this council as a way to surface that and bring that into an understanding of where technology should have a place in solving that, because I want to go back to one other thing Frank Monjoie said in the earlier call. All of these things are not really technology solutions that we need. They're also informational solutions. They're strategies that also should be deployed, not just something someone should have to go purchase from a vendor.
Right.
That's why I keep focusing on the one thing for me that is missing in the purpose and should be front and center is how do we use this council to go out to the rest of the membership, the individual councils, and surface what everybody thinks are the problem, and then begin to prioritize that, and then begin to say, hey, as we've identified the problem, maybe there are technologies that already exist that deal with that. Maybe there aren't, or maybe going back to what Barbara said, there are things that maybe you didn't know they fit together and begin to solve problems. But I want to leave that part secondary.
Yes.
I think we need to be the thought leaders in the problem first.
Right. It's the whole reason for technology. And I think too, going out internationally and seeing what maybe London is doing or Singapore is doing, or, you know, inviting them into a Zoom call and, you know, hearing, you know, how they solve for, I mean, I don't know who's doing TDM well in the world. And David, maybe you know that, or somebody in here knows that, because I don't. I know who does public transit well. And, it's not the US, I know that, but somebody's doing it well, I'm sure. What are they doing? What technologies? What are their problems? Are they the same problems? Is there technology that we're not even aware of? I mean, I don't care whose technology anybody has. I care that people are operating the way they want to operate and getting where they want to go the way they want to get there. And I don't know that that's 100% happening today. I really don't. So I think all of a sudden, though, when I talk to TDM organizations around the country, everybody's paying more attention to their TDM world. In places they've never paid attention to it. So I know that's happening. I know there's an awakening going on in the country. So I think this is that group that can say, hey, what are the real issues before we even talk about technology? I mean, what are the problems that are happening today? And you guys are all talking to people. The vendors are always talking to people, right? What are we hearing? Maybe we can come up with what we're seeing and what they're trying to explain to us. I don't know. I mean, because they're really paying attention all of a sudden. In Arizona, of all places, we never paid attention to TDM. It's like a whole new awakening. In Florida, same thing. It's harder in Florida, but everywhere's got its own little issues, right? California is kind of a separate entity in its world, right? It's like they do things way differently. New York, though, they're all of a sudden interested because why? People don't want their people on public transit. I hate to say it, but they don't right now. So I think we have an opportunity.
Yeah, and I do like, I would, going back to Tony's question around, how do we surface the challenges and problems that are of importance to our members? Right now, it's purely through listening, and putting our ear to the ground and hearing, what are the conversations taking place on Connect? What are the questions that we receive? What are some of the councils themselves working on as issues? So I think we could be doing a much better job at that. And
could we put a retro board out?
We could. I mean, it could be a retro board. It could be. I mean, going back to the the question on the survey. Having a survey that's really thought out. That gathers not just a surface level, but a deeper understanding about what the challenges are. Because we always, when we've asked about things of, what are you focused on? Right now I could probably tell you, responses would be return to work, telework, COVID. So I think we could, the council could work on, and as part of its overall objectives, really kind of diving deep into what are those top issues facing employers? What are those top issues facing universities, facing large urban areas, we're facing small rural areas, and really being able to dive in and splice and the information out to gather a true understanding on a perhaps even an annual basis of what are the challenges, what are the needs that they face, what are they looking to try and solve through technology, through behavior change, through whatever. That could be used as a baseline and ongoing understanding of pattern over years on how that gets addressed, and what are the solutions that are being tried.
I think ACT as a whole would benefit from that, David.
Yeah,
not just the council.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
I agree. David, can I throw out an idea?
Oh yeah.
Which is maybe the initial priority from a mission of this council could be just to begin to be the liaison to the rest of the councils. If I take what Mark put in the chat, if the prioritization of these things happens at the council, maybe our initial objective is just to be the bridge to the individual councils to start saying, hey, we want to start working on things. So we need that prioritization of what you guys would say are current challenges, so that we can begin to say, okay, how do we begin assessing, boiling it down to what is the challenge? How can the challenge be overcome? And then begin to say, are there solutions that help people overcome this, or maybe there are none, and maybe people here need to think forward about there are other technologies that have to come to surface that help these solutions, and maybe that's a blind spot that everyone has here. But like, I think if we could go out and be the connective tissue for the rest of the councils to say that, hey, we want to be your ear for what you guys would say, hey, these are the top 2, 3, 5 things that we feel like are problems and we wish there were solutions for. It would give us a way to surface certain things that we could then prioritize and say, okay, let's go figure out how we talk to the rest of ACT about these things. And we could do that. We could do it periodically, rotationally, pick different councils and reprioritize problems that they brought to us. I see that as a way to begin to like avoid what I heard a lot of people talking about before, which is us just being on the side talking on our own, because we're actively engaging and getting those councils to tell us what are the problems that you think the organization as a whole should be helping to solve. And then I think it funnels down to the rest of the things you have here, because I just believe that also then impacts certain policies that you as an executive director want to then say, like, this is what our membership is actually telling us is a problem, and these are the policies that we need to start thinking around. The policies and the technology actually should have some connective tissue to one another, because it should aim itself towards achieving the policy goal as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Yep.
I do have experience writing survey questions if anyone wants to work together on a survey that would be comprehensive. I wouldn't be able to do it alone because I don't know the industry as well, but I do know how to construct proper survey questions, if that helps at all.
I think Marie mentioned, I don't think anybody wants to be on a sales pitch all the time or even delivering it. So we're all where
Not allowed.
Yeah, where I find the greatest value is in participating in the Van Pool Council, listening to them talking about it.
Yeah, Marie said she wasn't feeling good. Marie France.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
She's
okay.
sick.
I also find that just in operating my own technology business, there are certain technology partners that are actually interested in cooperating and solving a larger problem, and there's ones that feel like they're going about it on their own. And I think there's plenty of room for all of those approaches. But where I'm finding the learning, I like what Tony said. A lot of this is actually happening in the council, but maybe we're not surfacing some of the strategic. And those are all functional activities. They're highly lots of expertise in there. And so I participate in the ones where I think I can learn and contribute. I don't participate in the ones where I don't. So I can see this connective tissue idea playing out. I'm struggling with it a little bit based on just my experience trying to partner with companies, or maybe never even presenting ourselves as a potential partner because I don't see it and neither do they, and we never even talk. There's a lot of wonderful connective tissue throughout ACT. I would like to go back to one point that might make sense. I find as a common objective, a common area where I don't think the buyer is very well educated is in privacy, data privacy, who owns the data, where does the data go, who has access to it, what does it mean? Those kinds of questions, there might be some guidance, because I find I might solve that problem for one organization, but a different organization finds that that's a reason not to move forward because they've got different policies and approaches and concerns about privacy, just as one example. I think that's a super dynamic, super crazy dynamic topic. And it's also used, in my opinion, as a methodology for not advancing towards some goals. And yet everybody wants data. So, you either want the data and you take certain risks, or you take certain paths towards achieving and acquiring that. And all of us might have a different approach to it, but that would be, to me, that's a big rock. That's a big rock barrier to progress in TDM management, period. And some work around how the industry views privacy or it might be valuable, and it may not naturally come out of a Van Pool Council or come out of a different one of the functional expertise councils. That might be a place where we could gather different attitudes and approaches in these different organizations towards a topic like data privacy as an example.
So I just wanted to add one thing here. We have, like, with our 5 minutes left, going back to the charter that was drafted up. I see the 3 focus areas are create resources, which I think we all agree on. We've talked about a bunch of different resources. Educate and inform members and outside stakeholders about opportunities for technology to benefit and advance TDM programs. I think, like, what it sounds like is we might want to put some more wording into that says actually more than educate, like find partnerships / pilots / work with other councils. And then the third piece, advanced policies. We didn't really talk much about that. Some people mentioned it. I think it's an interesting idea. One thing I think that would be potentially valuable to add into this, or what I think would be valuable, so that, because I generally agree with Mark in that I'm unsure of the I don't know if this is what you're saying, Mark. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm unsure of the long-term success of this group if it is entirely vendors, even if we go out and talk to other groups, because vendors have always existed and other groups could always talk to vendors, other councils. So if we could put something in here that required or got close to requiring some leadership from non-vendors, that could help us, right? If we have someone like Joseph or Josh or any of the other people who've been on these calls who are in leadership positions, that ensures that we're not, hopefully helps us ensure that we're not an echo chamber. That would be a recommendation that I would think could be valuable, because then it makes sure that our council is not just, this is the vendor council and no one wants to really deal with us. Those are my 2 cents. Generally, I really love the charter though. I think the 3 focus areas, the purpose, it's all getting at the right things. There might just be some clarification. I think people are really interested in the idea of pilots / partnerships / actually getting something put out in the real world. But besides that, it seems to hit the key points.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have to worry too much. If it turns into, a vendor fest, then we just drop out. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the point? There's nothing. It's
And that's
pointless.
what we want to not happen. If we're
Yeah,
going to
I
go
don't want
forward
it
with
either.
creating the council, we want to make sure it's set up for success. And the leadership piece is an interesting one.
Yeah.
That's something that you guys can entertain as we want to always have a non-vendor individual serving in a leadership role. It means the council will have to work a little harder to make sure to find that representation. As well, the council can look at having a committee that is really focused on the non-vendor side, that creates this place for we have an employer council, we have a university council, sure, they're focused on a wide range of topics. They may not have, they may bring up issues around technology and innovation within their conversations, but it's not their primary focus area. And I'm sure there's similarities between universities and employers and others that they could benefit and collaborate. And so the council could create a committee that really focuses on that and work to recruit people in to be engaged in those conversations and creating that space. But I don't want to see this fail after a year because people are like, it's all vendors. No need.
Well, it also depends on how you market it too. I mean,
yeah. And I do think, with the approach of the council serving as a gatherer in bringing the membership together to have and facilitate the conversations on these topics, I think presents a lot of value, I think, to you as vendors, as well as to those members who are not we don't have that conversation taking place really in other areas in a concerted way. So this would provide that value add there, and help raise the broader understanding of what issues, opportunities, challenges are there for the industry to address as it continues to advance. Okay, excellent. So I know we're here at 1 minute left. I think what I'll do is, if you can read through the charter, take a look at it, and if you have thoughts, edits, if you could send a red line version to me, by, what is today? Is it Wednesday? By the end of the week, I can try and pull together a new draft version to send out to the group that pulls in some of the thoughts of what we're hearing today, and any direct edits that people send to me as well. I'll use master editing skills and make executive decisions on what gets in and what doesn't when I get red line versions, but we'll put it all together there. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Any last minute thoughts from folks? Everyone feeling good with direction we're going? Awesome. Now that we've hit our Brady Bunch setup here and Zoom, take off and leave.
There's a story.
Time to sing.
Excellent, everyone. Thank
On
you
that
for the
note.
time.
All right,
Thank
talk
you.
to you later.
Thanks.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.